There's a whole stigma, isn't there, around talking about menopause and talking about menstrual health. And maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe we are very reluctant to talk about something we see as quite private. But we've moved on. It's 2023 with 51% of the population. How can you not talk about something which affects, millions and millions and millions of women? It's a fact of life. Women menstruate, women go through the menopause. And by talking about it openly, by introducing a British standard, then that means that we're recognising that it's not only important that we're talking about it, but it's vital to the way that we move forward in raising awareness and making women feel valued in the workplace and valued in society. For too long, women have been left unsupported in the workplace, and the economy and workplaces have suffered from that. We know that 1 in 10 women have given up work, 4 in 10 women have reduced their hours. In terms of the economy, that's meant that a lot of women have not actually paid into the system, so they've not paid enough national insurance contributions, which will affect their pension when they reach pensionable age. It means that women are obviously not paying in to the system, which we all need funded to keep us going on an everyday basis. It also means that many of those women will be actually claiming from the system in terms of long-term sickness benefit, unemployment benefit, universal credit. So economically, that means that not looking at the menopause as a consequence, as a cause of economic inactivity, could well mean that women have become a burden to the state in the sense that they need money to survive. By addressing the problem, not only will employers keep women in work, women who are excellent contributors, very productive, very often at the top of their game, and doing brilliant work for their employer, but there's a void when this experience goes. So it makes no sense that employers do not look at the menopause as something that they need to address in order to keep women in work economically and for the good of their company. It is a must that they actually look after women. The government are in a difficult position in terms of promoting menopause policies, because unless it becomes a mandatory requirement, they have no authority to enforce it. When I looked at menopause policies previously as a mandatory thing, then I've got a little bit reluctant to say that I would like to see it as statutory, because what happened was that when I went to visit companies who had one, it seemed to be something that was left in the drawer and nobody really looked at. And I don't think there was enough research going into those policies, because we'd not been talking about the problem and we didn't really know what the problems were. If a company is doing right by their employer, then the government needn't worry. But by the BSI actually taking this on and making sure that companies understand the importance of looking after their workforce, especially menopausal and menstruating women, then the government can take heed from that and actually use that in their own workforce, because they are employers at the end of the day. If the government have not got appropriate procedures in place, then they can't really expect other organisations and companies to have their house in order. So I think it's a double-edged sword here. As much as the government need to keep companies informed as to what they need to be doing, the government needs to be listening to what other companies are doing. And I think that that working together is the best approach going forward. I started raising awareness of menopause after I'd been contacted by some grassroots organisations who were looking at specific aspects or lack of treatment services in just in general. And when I was looking at this, I realised that this wasn't something that could be tackled in silos. It needs to be tackled in the whole. I was not even considering myself to be menopausal at that time. I was going through life as someone who was on antidepressants, believed that she had mental health problems for 8 years. I'd not even considered the fact I was menopausal or considered what I could do to make myself feel better. And when I started to talk to these groups and to talk to other women, it was a little bit like a light bulb went on in my head, and I suddenly realised that I was menopausal. And if I didn't know I was menopausal and I was talking about it in the House of Commons chamber, the chances are there were millions of women out there who don't recognise they're menopausal. And I was determined, as someone who has a keen interest in making sure that everybody gets an opportunity to access whatever treatment, whatever resource, whatever it is that makes them feel better, whether it's medical or whether it's alternative. It's about choice, isn't it? And I knew that in order to give women that choice, we had to talk about it publicly, talk about it politically, talk about it economically, talk about it in terms of every area of social policy, which is what we do, with the hope that those who have the power to make this a better environment sit up and listen. I think we've been quite successful. We've got a long way to go, but I'm not in anywhere near ready to stop talking about menopause in every area of social policy, and I'll continue to do so until every woman has adequate resource, adequate access to whatever it is she needs to make her life easier, to keep her in work, to keep her in marriage, to keep her sane, and in some cases to keep her alive, because the rate of suicide in menopausal women is absolutely terrifying. I think with the standard, it's so important to individual employers who may be very anxious or nervous about what it is they should be providing, what it is they should do, what it is they can do, and what it is they shouldn't be doing. So when we have a set of standards like the BSI standards, then it gives confidence to employers to look at what is being offered, and they feel that research has gone into that standard, and that if they are adopting this, they are adopting the best approach going forward. So it's about confidence, it's about knowledge, it's about assurity, it's about equality, and the BSI standard is offering that in abundance to not just women, to employers going forward. If we are talking about menopause, then everybody needs to be talking about menopause. Men, women, I'd like to see young people have an understanding of menopause, employers, um, government agencies, every single area of life needs to know about menopause. There are 14 million menopausal women in this country, and I think it's less than 14% have actually got access to services or a diagnosis. That cannot be right. In order to change that, we have to give everybody the knowledge, the confidence, the support, and access to whatever resource that suits that individual woman. So by raising awareness, by talking about it, by making it a priority and a subject matter that we're not uncomfortable to talk about, that we don't feel that we need to be shy and embarrassed, that we mention it like we would say, I've got a cold, because there is nothing to be ashamed of. And economically, socially, and in every walk of life, we will benefit as a nation from this liberation. And I mean, I think the menopause revolution has started. We've a long way to go, but we will continue to um, guide this revolution until every workplace, every family, every individual feels that they are comfortable to understand, to provide, and to work with the menopause for every single woman.